At the bottom of the ocean, something is alive, something that shouldn't exist. It has no eyes. Its body is transparent. It lives in pressure that would crush a human being in less than 1 second. And for over a century, we had no idea it was there. This is Earth's deepest place, over 11 kilometers straight down, a world so hostile, so alien, that sunlight gives up trying to reach the bottom. A place we know less about than the surface of Mars. And what scientists have found there is beyond anything biology predicted. Only a handful of humans have ever reached the bottom. 3 of them nearly died trying. And every single expedition has brought back discoveries that rewrite what we thought we knew. This is the true story of the Mariana Trench. How it was discovered by accident. How it was formed by Earth itself. The explorers who risked everything to descend. And the creatures that should be impossible, but somehow are not. The story begins in 1872. A British warship called HMS Challenger was refitted for a 4-year scientific mission. Its goal was simple in theory, but nearly impossible in practice: to map the entire ocean floor of the planet. At that time, nobody knew how deep the oceans actually were. Most scientists assumed the seafloor was a flat, featureless plain. So the Challenger's crew invented a brutal method to find out. They would lower a lead weight attached to miles of rope over the side of the ship. They waited for the weight to touch the bottom. Then they pulled the rope back up, meter by meter, hand over hand, cold, wet, and heavy. The crew performed this exhausting ritual hundreds of times, in tropical heat, in polar cold, across every ocean on Earth. For 3 years, the results were consistent. Most oceans were 3 to 4 kilometers deep, featureless mud and silt, a routine, unremarkable seafloor. Until March 23, 1875. The Challenger was sailing alone, 2,000 kilometers east of the Philippines. Another routine sounding was taken. The weight was lowered, and it kept going down, and down, and down. When the rope finally went slack, the crew couldn't believe the number. Over 8,000 meters below them. Nearly 5 miles of ocean beneath the ship. They had accidentally discovered the deepest point ever recorded on Earth. They named it after the ship itself, Challenger Deep. But what created this impossible place? The answer lies in one of Earth's most violent geological processes, plate tectonics. Beneath our feet, Earth's crust is broken into massive pieces called tectonic plates, and these plates are constantly moving. They drift, they collide, they grind against each other. The Mariana Trench exists exactly where 2 of these plates meet, the massive Pacific Plate and the smaller Mariana Plate. For tens of millions of years, these 2 giants have been in slow, relentless combat. The Pacific Plate is heavier, denser, older. So when it meets the Mariana Plate, something remarkable happens. The Pacific Plate dives underneath, sliding below the lighter plate at a rate of just a few centimeters per year. Scientists call this process subduction. As the Pacific Plate descends into Earth's mantle, it drags the seafloor down with it, creating a massive V-shaped trench above. This is not a single past event. It is happening right now. As you watch this video, The trench is getting deeper, millimeter by millimeter. The result is a trench that stretches over 2,500 kilometers long, longer than the Grand Canyon, stretched from coast to coast. At its deepest point, it plunges 10,935 meters below sea level. If you placed Mount Everest at the bottom of Challenger Deep, its peak would still be more than a mile underwater. If you stacked 36 Empire State Buildings on top of each other, they could be swallowed by this trench completely. This is the deepest place on Earth. And it was born from the slow, violent collision of continents. To understand what survives in the Mariana Trench, we first need to understand the journey down. The ocean is not a single environment. It is divided into zones, each one more hostile, colder, and darker than the last. Zone 1, the photic zone, from the surface down to 200 meters. This is the ocean we know, where sunlight reaches. Coral reefs thrive here. Fish swim in colorful schools. Below 200 meters, the twilight zone. Colors begin to disappear. Red fades first, then orange, then yellow. By 500 meters, the world is painted only in shades of deep blue. Below 1,000 meters, the midnight zone. Total darkness. No sunlight penetrates this far. Temperatures hover just above freezing. Bioluminescent flashes are the only illumination in a black void. This is where evolution gets strange. Below 4,000 meters, the abyssal zone. The seafloor becomes visible, flat, featureless. Food here comes only from above. Organic material falling slowly from the surface. Scientists call it marine snow, a constant silent drift of death. Occasionally, something larger falls. A whale dies at the surface. Its body sinks for days, sometimes weeks. When it finally reaches the seafloor, one dead whale can feed an entire deep-sea ecosystem for decades. Below 6,000 meters, the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. At 10,935 meters, pressure exceeds 16,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a military submarine like an aluminum can. A human being unprotected here would implode in less than a second, before their brain could even register pain. And yet, somehow, life exists down here. For 85 years after the Challenger discovered the trench, no human had reached the bottom. It was considered impossible. The pressure would crush any known vessel, until two men decided to try anyway. The date was January 23, 1960. Jacques Piccard, a Swiss oceanographer. Don Walsh, a United States Navy lieutenant. They climbed into a steel sphere inside a submersible called the Trieste. The sphere was barely large enough for two men to sit side by side. It was designed to withstand crushing pressure no human vessel had ever faced. The descent began slowly. For the first hour, everything was normal, cold, quiet, dark. They were alone in a void. Then, at roughly 9,000 meters, they heard something neither man had prepared for. A loud crack. One of the outer plexiglass windows had shattered. In that single moment, both Piccard and Walsh knew they might already be dead. If the pressure seal failed completely, the sphere would implode instantly. Their bodies would be crushed before they understood what had happened. The Trieste would never surface again. They had seconds to make a decision: abort or continue. They chose to continue. For the next 4 hours, they descended in silence. Every creak of metal, every subtle groan of the sphere, could be their last sound on Earth. 5 hours after their descent began, the Trieste reached the bottom of Challenger Deep. The submersible's lights illuminated a world no human had ever seen. Movement, life, creatures swimming calmly in the deepest, most hostile place on Earth. Life wasn't just possible, it was thriving. After the Trieste's historic dive, something unexpected happened. No one went back. For the next 52 years, the deepest place on Earth remained unvisited by human beings. Technology advanced, space exploration accelerated, but the ocean was forgotten. Then, in March 2012, a man most people knew only as a filmmaker changed everything. James Cameron, the director of Titanic, the director of Avatar, and an obsessive explorer of the deep ocean. For decades behind the scenes, Cameron decided to do what no one had ever attempted: a solo dive into Challenger Deep. His submersible, the Deep-Sea Challenger, was designed for rapid vertical descent, smaller, faster, more advanced than the Trieste, but still extraordinarily dangerous. Cameron reached the bottom in just 2 hours and 36 minutes. He spent 3 hours at the deepest point on Earth, completely alone, 10,908 meters below the surface. But during his ascent, the Deep-Sea Challenger began to fail. Several of its thrusters stopped working. Cameron had to navigate back to the surface on severely limited power. For hours. If the remaining systems had failed too, he would have been trapped, alone, forever. He made it back. But no one would attempt a solo dive to Challenger Deep again. The next chapter came in 2019. American explorer Victor Vescovo funded a brand new submersible called the Limiting Factor, engineered for multiple dives. Between April and May 2019, Vescovo reached Challenger Deep 4 separate times. He became the first person to dive to Earth's deepest point more than once. What his missions brought back was extraordinary. New species, never seen before. Microbes found nowhere else on Earth. Detailed maps of the trench floor. But they also brought back something else. Something that shouldn't have been there. A plastic bag at the bottom of Challenger Deep, nearly 11 kilometers down, in the deepest place on Earth. Human pollution had arrived. Before most humans could even visit, the deepest, most untouched environment on our planet was no longer untouched. But what else did they find? What actually lives down there? Scientists have now documented a handful of species in the Mariana Trench, each one stranger than the last. Each one should not be able to survive, but somehow they do. The xenophyophores, single-celled organisms the size of a dinner plate. They build elaborate shells from sediment. These shells house entire micro-ecosystems of smaller creatures. A single cell, sustaining complex life around it. It seems impossible. It should be impossible. Giant amphipods, shrimp-like creatures that grow over 30 centimeters long, 5 times larger than any surface amphipod. Scientists call this phenomenon deep-sea gigantism, the Dumbo octopus, a ghostly white octopus with fins shaped like elephant ears. Its soft, flexible body can withstand pressures that would crush any rigid structure instantly. The deep-sea anglerfish, one of evolution's most terrifying creations. A glowing bioluminescent lure dangles from its head. Smaller fish are drawn to the glow. They think it's food. They think it's safe. Then the anglerfish strikes. Its mouth opens wider than its entire body. Its teeth prevent any escape. But the most remarkable creature of all is the Mariana snailfish, the deepest living fish ever recorded. Discovered at 8,178 meters below the surface, its body is soft, gelatinous, almost fragile to look at. By every appearance, it should not exist. But that softness is its superpower. Rigid bones would collapse under the crushing pressure of the Hadal zone. The snailfish has almost no bones. Its flexible body resists compression instead of fighting it. Inside every cell are special molecules called TMAO. These molecules stabilize the fish's proteins against enormous pressure. Without TMAO, its cells would tear apart. With it, the snailfish thrives. The Mariana snailfish proves something profound about our planet. Life is not fragile. Life is stubborn. Wherever there is a way, no matter how strange, no matter how impossible, evolution will find it. Even at 8,000 meters down, even in pressure that kills, even in complete darkness, life persists. And perhaps there is much more down there we have not yet found. Because the truth is, the Mariana Trench still holds secrets that science cannot explain. In 1997, hydrophones stationed across the Pacific Ocean recorded the most powerful underwater sound ever captured. Scientists named it the bloop. The sound was so loud, it was detected on sensors 5,000 kilometers apart. If the bloop had come from a living creature, that creature would have been larger than any animal ever recorded on Earth, larger than a blue whale. Years later, most researchers concluded it was likely an ice quake, but the original signal was so powerful, so low frequency, that the debate quietly continues. In 2014, researchers detected another strange metallic sound they called the biotwang. It repeated at regular intervals. It came from deep in the Mariana region. The truth remains uncertain. More than 95% of Earth's oceans remain completely unexplored. Somewhere beneath every wave, there are creatures humans have never seen, sounds that have never been recorded, discoveries that have never been made. But today, the Mariana Trench faces a new kind of danger. Not from its depths, but from U.S. deep-sea mining companies are developing technology to extract rare metals from the ocean floor. Ecosystems that survived for millions of years could be destroyed in a single decade. Species we have not yet discovered could go extinct before we even meet them. The Mariana Trench reminds us of something important, that even on our own planet, mystery still exists. We have mapped the surface of Mars in better detail than most of our ocean floor, but we still don't fully know what lives beneath us. Somewhere in that deep darkness, creatures are swimming, hunting, surviving. If this story made you rethink what we know about our own planet, Subscribe to Next Mind now. In our next video, we descend into another place on Earth that should not exist. I'll see you there.